It's been about a year and a half since RealDealPoker.com came out with the idea of changing online poker to poker online by using a real deck of cards. It's created a lot of speculation as to how that can be done and a lot of excitement by a lot of people who are waiting to play. Today we sit down with the inventor to find out how it's going to happen, how he's going to pull this off. Let's go meet him.
In a live game, you've got a 52 card deck. What the dealer does is he spreads it out, verifies that every card is there, and that there's one and only one card. And he takes them, he turns them over like this. It gives them what's called a wash. Now, I'm not a dealer, never have been, so I'm not quite as good. Those guys are very good. I'm not anywhere near as good as those guys are. They'll shuffle them better than I do. Yeah, this is the whole point of the thing. They'll take, and when they're done, they've got a cut card. They'll take the deck like this. They'll cut the deck. They'll proceed to deal the game. This is truly a fair game of cards. There's a 52 card deck. It's been scrambled, it's been shuffled, it's been cut, it's going to get dealt. It's going to get dealt in this order, and nobody knows the order of the cards. That is a fair game of poker. Real cards, scrambled, shuffled, cut, and dealt. If you can take a deck of cards and you can scramble, shuffle them, and deal them and create auditable records in the process, I think the Congress survey concluded by the biggest issue with online poker was the inability to have any post-game certification of the results. So when I started thinking about this, I thought I had a way that this could be done. Giving real decks of cards, creating an auditable program, and assuring players that one thing, that the game was fair. Forget all the other questions, but the one thing this system was designed in my mind to do was to make sure the game was fair. That was the whole purpose of doing this. Get rid of that question, people can enjoy the game, win or lose. As long as that question's there, you don't enjoy playing. And there's a lot of people that play and quit playing because of it. And that's just the fact. That's just the way it is. How many machines does it take? How do you do it? And how do you make sure that you don't slow the game down? There's one part in our process that slows the game down, but it's so insignificant if players are ready to play, and that's the cut. We actually let the players we let a player with the dealer button execute a cut immediately before the game begins. It does one thing. It does nothing else. It's taken the determination of the results of a game out of the hands of a computer program, which has created lots of questions, and it's put it directly in the hands of the players playing the game. Players at the game are going to determine the results of each and every game. Now, to understand how we can do this and why we can do it, you have to understand the fundamentals of a 52-card deck. This 52-card deck can be assorted in a number that starts with 80 and is followed by 66 zeros. It's 52 factorial, and the number is 80 divigatillion. And to put that in perspective, you could safely say, and you could probably ask any mathematician, and I did, that in the history of cards in the world, ever since cards began, that a deck of 52 cards has probably never been ordered in the identical order once. And once you understand that number and the significance of the number, it opens up some possibilities that allow you to make sure that you can deal a unique deck of cards to every table, audit it back to a videotape and a data record, and deal a game of cards that you, one, know is completely random. Secondly, players are going to cut it and determine the results. And third, if they don't think the game is fair, they can call for an examination of that game's records, and the history of that game can be traced back to a videotape of a deck done by a machine that doesn't know one card from another. When our machine gets a deck ready to deal, it scrambles it. We've got a scrambler, a patented scrambler. We've got a shuffler, and we've got a dealing device. The cards are dealt so that every deck is unique. It's got a unique ID number on it. It's got a barcode on it. And And we know that there's a unique deck of cards dealt to each and every game that we deal, whether it's 5 or whether it's 50,000. We're going to deal a deck just like the one I just did, a different one. No table is ever going to get the same deck of cards. It's going to get a completely unique deck, and it's going to get one of this 80 divigatarian combinations that are available with a deck of cards. It's just as simple as that. Now, the cut has a couple of purposes, and one is it puts the game in the control of the players. Secondly, the way that our cut is designed. The player has to execute an interactive application with a mouse cut. The position of that deck that they get to cut changes. It's somewhere on their screen. It's going to deter. Is it going to eliminate robots? Probably somebody will figure out a way around it because they want to use robots and they want to have a computer program playing for them. We don't think it's fair. We're trying to deter them. This game is for real people. It's real cards, real people, real poker. We're taking online the game that you're used to playing at home or in a casino. And we're doing it in a fashion that we can certify the results of the game. If you don't believe us, you can bet me $50. I'll give you 100 to 1 odds that a third party can't come in here and find anything wrong with this game. We got our license approved in Isle of Man. We anticipate opening the first part of April with RealDealPoker.com and RealDealPoker.net. We are going to abide by the U.S. law and not provide real money play into the United States. That's what we've been advised by our attorneys. But in the process of developing this thing, a couple of things became obvious. One, the machines that we developed had to be very reliable because they have to run 24 hours a day. The second thing is we have to make sure that we produce random results. And before we did our licensing application, I was fortunate to meet a professor at the University of Denver. His name's Robert Hannum. He's a professor of math and statistics at the University of Denver. He also is a consulting statistician for the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. And he is a co-author of the book Casino Math, which is probably the foremost book ever written on casino statistics and mathematics. He co-wrote it with Tony Cabot, a lawyer in Las Vegas. And he's published a couple of other gaming-related articles for various law colleges across the United States. And I went to see Bob and asked him, told him what I was doing, and asked him to come over and view the system, how it was working, and then asked him to perform a randomization test on it. He had us run the machine to deal a number of decks and put them in a certain spreadsheet format. So you don't really test for something being random. You conclude it's random. You run a number of tests to see if it fails any of those, and those are meant to see that it's not random. There's clump analysis, gap analysis, quarter deck, half deck, chi-squared. I mean, they've got about 8 or 9 tests they'll run. If it fails any of those tests, it's an indication that it's not random. If it doesn't fail any of those tests within whatever parameters they use for pass and fail, then you conclude that the results are random. So we gave him some data off of a machine. We ran a couple of decks through it several hundred times and gave him the results, and he performed the analysis, and his report has been on our website for about 1.5 years now. And if you want to read those kind of things, you're welcome to it. But it's a very thorough test. And at the end of the day, Dr. Hannum is comfortable in saying, his statement, I think, to the Denver Business Journal was that you can trust their deals to be random. So subsequent to that, with licensing in the Isle of Man, we have to get certification from the testing lab that provides the information to the Gaming Supervisory Control Board that, in fact, concludes that all of this stuff is true. They test our system. They test the game data. We're going to provide them 500,000 decks deals. And they're going to test it to see if it's random and passes their criteria. So we have to go through that certification. I spent 5 years refining and looking at every possible problem that I could think of and finding a solution for it. I am confident today that we have done what we set out to do. We can deal real cards to real people and play real poker online.